The Chicago winter painted the city white, transforming skyscrapers into ice monuments against a steel gray sky. Snow fell in thick curtains, swirling between buildings and reducing visibility to mere yards. Inside the gleaming glass tower of Harrington Pharmaceuticals, Jennifer Harrington sat at the head of a polished mahogany conference table, her posture perfect, her expression focused. At 29, she commanded the room with quiet authority, her intelligence evident in her sharp green eyes. The merger will increase production capacity by 60%, Jennifer explained, pointing to projections on the screen behind her. 12 board members watched attentively as she outlined the future of their company. Questions before we vote? The phone in her pocket vibrated once, twice, 3 times. Jennifer never received calls during board meetings. Her assistant knew better. A fourth vibration. Something was wrong. "Excuse me," she said, stepping toward the door. "Davis, please continue with the financial projections." In the hallway, Jennifer's fingers trembled slightly as she checked the screen. Central Hospital. Her heart stuttered. Robert had left their home that morning in perfect health, his goodbye kiss still warm on her lips, his promise to be home early for dinner still hanging in the air between them. "This is Jennifer Harrington." "Mrs. Harrington." The voice paused, carrying the weight of terrible news. "This is Dr. Matthews from Central Hospital. There's been an accident involving your husband, Robert. The situation is critical. We need you to come immediately." The world narrowed to the cold phone pressed against her ear. "Accident? What do you mean, accident? I had coffee with him 2 hours ago." "Mrs. Harrington, please come as soon as possible. He's in surgery right now." Jennifer's legs trembled beneath her as she re-entered the boardroom. "Meeting adjourned. Family emergency." The words felt foreign in her mouth as she gathered her papers with mechanical movements. Outside, the winter storm had intensified. Wind whipped snow against her face as Jennifer struggled to her car. The leather seat felt ice cold through her thin designer dress. Her driver, sensing the urgency, navigated the treacherous streets with grim determination. Each second stretched into eternity as traffic lights glowed red through the blizzard, forcing them to stop. Jennifer's perfectly manicured nails dug crescents into her palms. "Please, Robert," she whispered to the storm. "Please be alive." The hospital's automatic doors parted with a hiss that sounded like an omen. The antiseptic smell hit her like a physical blow. A nurse waited at reception, her expression carefully neutral, but her eyes betrayed the truth. Jennifer recognized that look, the wife of the man fighting for his life in some sterile room nearby. "This way, Mrs. Harrington." The private waiting room felt like a prison cell despite its tasteful art and comfortable armchairs. Jennifer refused to sit. Her Louboutin heels tapped a frantic rhythm on the floor as she paced. Minutes crawled by like hours, the wall clock ticking with cruel persistence. When the door finally opened, Jennifer knew. She knew before seeing Dr. Matthews' grave expression. She knew before he removed his surgical cap. She knew before hearing the words that would fracture her world. "Mrs. Harrington." The doctor's eyes filled with a compassion she didn't want to see. "We did everything in our power. The collision was extremely severe. The internal damage was too extensive." He paused, allowing the inevitable to sink in. "I'm sorry, but your husband didn't survive his injuries. The world didn't crumble with a bang. It disintegrated in silence." "No, didn't." The word escaped her lips like a final, futile prayer. "No, this isn't happening. I need to see him. I need to—" "Miss Harrington, Robert can't be gone. He has a meeting tonight with investors." Jennifer heard the desperation in her voice, the absurdity of her words. "He never misses meetings." Dr. Matthews gently took her hands. His next words finally shattered the last barrier of her denial. "If you would like to say your goodbyes, now is the time." The hallway to the room where Robert lay seemed endless. Each step felt heavier than the last. When she finally reached the door, Jennifer hesitated. On the other side was the confirmation of a nightmare from which she would never fully awaken. Robert looked like he was sleeping. His face was serene, almost as though he could open his eyes at any moment and flash that smile that had won her heart years ago, but the silence was too loud. The absence of movement too devastating. "I love you," she whispered, touching his still warm cheek. "Please come back to me." But Robert Harrington, 35 years old, her husband, her partner, Her best friend was gone. The following hours blurred into a haze of paperwork and condolences. Jennifer signed documents without reading them, answered questions without processing them, and moved like an automaton through the hospital corridors until she finally found herself alone in her mansion. The silence was deafening. Every room held memories that now felt like razor-sharp blades against her heart. His coffee cup sat in the sink with his lipstick mark where he had left it that morning. His favorite blazer lay casually tossed over the couch, waiting to be worn again. His cologne still lingered in the air, a cruel ghost of everything she had lost. Jennifer wandered through the corridors like a shadow, touching objects that suddenly carried the weight of an entire lifetime. In their bedroom, Robert's side of the bed remained messy. He always said he would make it later. In the closet, his ties hung arranged by color, a habit she used to find both adorable and annoying. When she reached his office, her legs finally gave out. The laptop sat open, displaying the last email he had been writing. The screensaver cycled through photos of them together, frozen moments of happiness that now seemed to belong to another life. Night fell over the Harrington mansion, wrapping it in shadows that danced on the walls. Somewhere a clock counted the implacable passage of time, reminding her that the world kept turning even though hers had completely stopped. Jennifer Harrington, CEO of one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the country, a self-made billionaire and now a widow, sat on the floor of her husband's office until dawn, surrounded by fragments of a life that had been brutally cut short. The winter sun rose pale and distant 3 days later as funeral preparations transformed the Harrington mansion. Jennifer had chosen to hold the wake at home. Robert always said their house should be a place for gatherings, for life. From her bedroom window, Jennifer watched as workers arranged chairs and flowers in the grand main hall. The baby grand piano, where Robert had tried and failed to learn to play, had been moved aside to make room for the polished mahogany coffin. "Mrs. Harrington?" Her housekeeper's gentle voice pulled her from her thoughts. "The florists have arrived with the arrangements." Jennifer nodded mechanically, her fingers unconsciously twisting her wedding ring. White lilies, Robert's favorite. He always said their scent reminded him of his mother's garden. As the morning progressed, the mansion began to fill. The echo of heels on marble and hushed condolences resonated through the corridors. Jennifer recognized every face: CEOs, investors, politicians, the entire business and social elite, all impeccably dressed in black, all wearing carefully solemn expressions. Jennifer Palmer, wife of the board's president, embraced her. What a terrible tragedy, a priceless loss for the market. The vice president of a competing company shook her hand firmly. Robert was a visionary. The words slid off her without sinking in. Every hug, every handshake, every "I'm so sorry" sounded empty, mechanical. Jennifer found herself observing the interactions as if watching a poorly rehearsed play. A group of investors discreetly discussed the implications of Robert's death on the stock market. Further on, executives exchanged business cards, taking the opportunity to network. Feeling suffocated by the hypocrisy, Jennifer sought refuge behind one of the hall's marble columns. From there, she had a partial view of the coffin where Robert lay, surrounded by lily arrangements that now seemed absurdly ostentatious. The constant murmur of voices was interrupted when James Wheeler, the company's CFO, approached her hiding place. "Jennifer." His voice carried just enough sympathy to seem appropriate. At 55, James had the polished appearance of someone who believed appearances were everything. "I know this is difficult, but the quarterly meeting with Eastern investors is still scheduled for tonight. The company can't afford any delays, especially now." Jennifer stared at him, momentarily speechless. "My husband's body isn't even in the ground yet, James." He leaned closer. "Robert would want the company to continue functioning." His voice dropped to a whisper. "The board is watching how you handle this, Jennifer." Before she could respond, a commotion near the entrance diverted their attention. Jennifer leaned forward slightly, curious, and then she saw her. A small girl, no older than 4, was walking across the hall carrying a baby in her arms. Her bare feet made no sound against the Italian marble, and her worn clothes contrasted dramatically with the expensive suits and designer dresses surrounding her. The baby, similarly shabbily dressed, slept peacefully against her chest. Jennifer held her breath, captivated by the surreal scene. The child moved with impressive determination for someone so young, ignoring the scandalized looks from the guests. Her dark hair, barely contained in a messy ponytail, swayed with each step. When she reached the coffin, the little one carefully adjusted the baby in her arms before kneeling down. The silence that followed was absolute, as though everyone present had been bewitched by the unexpected presence of this child. "Thank you for being our hero, Uncle Robert." The child's voice, clear and sweet, echoed in the silent hall. "Now you're an angel in heaven." Jennifer felt tears rolling down her cheeks before she even realized she was crying. There was something about the simplicity of those words, the absolute sincerity of that small voice, that pierced the numbness she'd felt since Robert's death. The baby in the girl's arms stirred, letting out a small sigh. She adjusted him with a care that was deeply moving, murmuring something soft that Jennifer couldn't hear. Compelled by an impulse she couldn't explain, Jennifer emerged from her hiding place. Her legs trembled as she approached the children, but before she could reach them, voices shattered the moment. "Who let those kids in? Where's security? Somebody call the doorman." In the brief moment of confusion that followed, the girl stood up with surprising agility. Her eyes met Jennifer's for an instant, big dark eyes carrying wisdom far beyond her years. Then, just as she had appeared, she disappeared into the crowd, taking the baby with her. "Jennifer!" James appeared at her side. "Are you all right? Don't worry. We've already called security to deal with the situation." But Jennifer hardly heard him. Her eyes remained fixed on the spot where the children had vanished. Who were they? How did they know Robert? And why had they called him uncle? And why, for the first time since that fateful call from the hospital, did her heart feel something other than pain? The rest of the wake passed in a blur. Jennifer mechanically fulfilled her role as the grieving widow, accepting condolences and thanking people for coming. But her mind kept returning to that moment, the image of the small, barefoot girl, the baby asleep in her arms, and the purity of that simple prayer. When night finally fell and the last guest departed, Jennifer found herself alone again in the silent mansion. She walked over to the coffin, now surrounded only by lilies slowly wilting in the warm air. Her fingers traced Robert's serene face gently. "Who were they, Robert?" she whispered into the silence. "What else didn't you tell me?" The question went unanswered, echoing through the mansion's empty corridors. But something had changed. In place of the numbness that had consumed her for the past few days, Jennifer felt a burning curiosity, an almost physical need to uncover the truth behind those mysterious children. As she climbed the stairs to her lonely bedroom, Jennifer knew she would not be able to rest until she solved this mystery. The little girl's words echoed in her mind. Our hero, Uncle Robert. What kind of hero had her husband been? And to whom? The answers to those questions would change her life forever, though she did not know it yet. For now, all she had were unanswered questions and the memory of a child's prayer that had somehow begun to melt the ice encasing her heart since Robert's death. 3 days after the funeral, the image of the two children remained fixed in Jennifer's thoughts. She found herself searching through Robert's office for the third time, looking for any clue that could lead her to them, bank statements, random notes, receipts, anything that would explain the connection between her husband and those mysterious kids. While organizing Robert's belongings, she discovered something unusual tucked into his wallet, a receipt from Central Pharmacy in the West Side District, an area she had never known Robert to visit. The receipt was dated 2 weeks prior, and the amount was substantial. Victoria Reed, Robert's longtime assistant, knocked softly on the office door. Tall and composed, Victoria had worked with Robert for over 8 years, and Jennifer had always appreciated her quiet efficiency. "Mrs. Harrington." Victoria hesitated, which was unusual for her. "I need to speak with you about Robert, about something he was doing." Jennifer felt her heart rate increase. "Please, come in." Victoria closed the door behind her. "I noticed you found the pharmacy receipt." Her normally confident demeanor seemed shaken. "Robert asked me to keep certain matters confidential. But now that he's gone," she took a deep breath. "Every Tuesday and Thursday, Robert would leave the office claiming to work late, but he was never at the office during those times." Jennifer's grip tightened on the receipt. "Did he tell you where he went?" Victoria shook her head. "No, but he was very protective of his schedule those days. No meetings, no calls. When I asked once, he simply said it was personal." After Victoria left, Jennifer stared at the pharmacy receipt for a long time. A thought formed in her mind. If Robert had been buying something from this pharmacy regularly, perhaps someone there might remember him. "Marcus," she called her driver through the intercom, "please get the car ready. We're going to make some visits." The drive to Westside took them through neighborhoods increasingly distant from Jennifer's world of luxury. Snow piled in dirty heaps along narrow streets where dilapidated buildings huddled together against the cold. Central Pharmacy stood on a corner, its neon sign flickering weakly in the gray afternoon light. The contrast between Jennifer's Mercedes and the surrounding poverty couldn't have been more stark. She drew curious glances from passers-by as she stepped onto the icy sidewalk, her designer boots crunching on salt-covered concrete. The pharmacy's bell jingled when Jennifer pushed the glass door open. The air conditioner hummed loudly, fighting against the afternoon chill. The place smelled of medicine and cleaning supplies, a far cry from the high-end boutique pharmacies Jennifer frequented. "Can I help you?" asked the pharmacist, a middle-aged man with thick-rimmed glasses who barely glanced up from his papers. "Yes." Jennifer adjusted her Hermes bag on her shoulder, feeling strangely out of place. "I'm Jennifer Harrington." The name had an immediate effect. The man's head snapped up, his eyes widening in recognition. "Mrs. Harrington," his voice softened. "I'm so sorry for your loss." "Thank you." She approached the counter, keeping her voice low. "I need information about the medications my husband used to buy here." The pharmacist, Dr. Peterson, according to his badge, visibly paled. "Mrs. Harrington, there are confidentiality issues." "They were pediatric medications, weren't they?" Jennifer insisted, her voice trembling slightly. "For a baby." Peterson removed his glasses, nervously wiping them with the hem of his lab coat. "Your husband asked for absolute discretion. And now he's gone." The words came out harsher than she intended. Jennifer took a deep breath, softening her tone. "Please, I need to know." The man hesitated for a long moment before sighing heavily. "They were specialized pediatric medications, very expensive. Mr. Harrington paid in cash and always asked that there be no record in his name." "What kind of medications?" "They were for a rare autoimmune condition." Peterson lowered his voice. "The kind of medication that few can afford. Your husband was a good man, Mrs. Harrington. A very good man." Jennifer felt tears threatening to fall. Robert, her Robert, keeping such profound secrets. "Was there a delivery address?" "He always picked them up himself." Peterson hesitated again. "But once there was an emergency, I had to deliver them." He scribbled something on a piece of paper. "Riverside District, on the east side." Riverside was a working-class neighborhood miles away from the world of mansions and luxury cars Jennifer inhabited. When her driver stopped in front of the given address, she almost couldn't believe it. The building was old, 3 stories high with peeling paint that must have once been white. "Mrs. Harrington," Marcus sounded worried through the rear-view mirror. "Are you sure you want to go inside?" Jennifer nodded, adjusting her sunglasses despite the overcast sky. The lobby smelled of mildew and cheap cleaning products. An elderly lady was sweeping the floor, quietly humming to herself. "Excuse me," Jennifer called softly. "I'm looking for—" The lady looked up, and something in her gaze made Jennifer stop. It was a look of recognition, followed by surprise and a hint of suspicion. "Oh." The elderly woman leaned on her broom. "You're Mr. Harrington's wife." Jennifer's heart sped up. "You knew him?" "Of course I did. Such a good man." The woman, Mrs. Martha, as she introduced herself, pointed to the 3rd floor. "Apartment 302. He rented it for the children." "The children?" Jennifer could hardly keep her voice from trembling. "A little girl and a baby?" Mrs. Martha nodded slowly. "Angels, those kids. Little Lily so grown up for her age, and baby Ethan always so sick." Her eyes grew sad. "Your husband was a blessing to them." "How?" Jennifer swallowed. "How did they meet?" "That I don't know, dear. One day he showed up, rented the apartment, paid 6 months in advance. He came every Tuesday and Thursday." The woman went back to sweeping. "But I shouldn't say more. He always asked for discretion, you know." Jennifer climbed the stairs as if in a trance, her heels echoing on the concrete steps. 3rd floor, apartment 302. The door was simple, cheap wood with a lock that had seen better days. She knocked once, then again. Silence. They went out early today. Mrs. Martha's voice drifted up from below. They always leave early. Jennifer pressed her forehead against the cold door, letting tears finally flow down her face. Somewhere behind that door lay Robert's secret life, a life of kindness and compassion he had kept hidden from her. "Why, Robert?" she whispered into the silence. "Why didn't you tell me?" Standing there in the dim hallway of a rundown apartment building, snow falling outside the grimy windows, Jennifer Harrington realized she had never truly known her husband. The man who shared her bed, her home, her life, had carried secrets she couldn't have imagined. The discovery should have angered her, should have felt like betrayal. Instead, as she placed her palm flat against the door that separated her from Robert's other world, she felt something unexpected stirring in her heart. Pride, admiration, and a desperate need to understand the man she thought she knew completely. "Robert," she whispered to the empty hallway, "who were you when you weren't with me?" The answer lay beyond this door, and somehow Jennifer knew it would change everything. The morning sun struggled through heavy clouds as Jennifer drove back to the Riverside apartment building. Fresh snow had fallen overnight, transforming the grimy neighborhood into something almost beautiful. Street lamps still glowed amber against the early dawn light, casting long shadows across untouched drifts. Jennifer had barely slept. After discovering the apartment, she had returned home to an empty mansion that no longer felt like home. The night hours passed in a haze of questions without answers, of imagined scenarios featuring her husband and two mysterious children. She rose before dawn, determined to return when she might find them home. The building looked even more dilapidated in daylight. Cracked concrete steps led to a foyer with peeling wallpaper. The elevator displayed an out-of-order sign that looked months old. Jennifer climbed the stairs slowly, her heartbeat quickening with each step. Third floor, apartment 302. She stood before the door, smoothing her cashmere coat with trembling hands. What would she say? How would she explain herself? Taking a deep breath, Jennifer knocked. Silence stretched. She knocked again, louder. A small voice called from inside. "Who is it?" "My name is Jennifer," she answered, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. "Jennifer Harrington. I was Robert's wife." The silence that followed seemed endless. Then came the sound of multiple locks being unlatched. The door opened slowly, revealing the same little girl Jennifer had seen at the funeral. Lily stood in the doorway, her dark eyes wide with recognition. She wore a faded pink sweater and mismatched socks. Despite the threadbare clothes, there was a quiet dignity in the way she held herself. "You're the pretty lady from Uncle Robert's photos," she said, her voice a mixture of surprise and caution. Jennifer felt a knot form in her throat. "Yes, that's me. May I come in?" Lily hesitated for a moment, studying Jennifer intently. Then slowly she opened the door wider and stepped aside. The apartment was small but surprisingly cozy. The walls, though clearly old, were painted a soft yellow. A worn but clean sofa occupied most of the living room, and a small television played cartoons at low volume. In the corner, a simple crib held a sleeping baby, Ethan. "He just fell asleep," Lily explained quietly, closing the door behind Jennifer. "He had a rough night." Jennifer nodded, at a loss for words. Her gaze wandered around the room, taking in every detail. On the small coffee table, she noticed a few children's books, and next to them, vials of medications she recognized as extremely expensive pharmaceuticals her company produced. "Are you both okay?" Jennifer finally managed to ask, her voice trembling. Lily looked at her with an intensity far beyond her few years. "We're getting by," she answered simply. Then, as if remembering something important, she added, "I'm sorry about Uncle Robert. He was really good to us." The girl's words pierced Jennifer's heart. She felt tears welling up but held them back. "Can you tell me about him? About how you met?" Lily gestured toward the sofa, and Jennifer sat down. The girl settled on the other end, pulling her knees to her chest in a posture that made her seem even smaller. "It was on a rainy night," Lily began, her voice soft but steady. "Ethan was really sick. He had a high fever, and I didn't know what to do. We were looking for food behind a restaurant when Uncle Robert found us." Jennifer listened, spellbound, as Lily recounted the events of that fateful night. Robert, leaving work late, had spotted them rummaging through trash bags. Instead of simply walking by or calling authorities, he stopped to help. He saw Ethan was burning up with fever, Lily continued, her eyes distant as if reliving the scene. He didn't hesitate for a second. He took us straight to the hospital. When the story that followed was a testament to Robert's kindness and compassion. He not only paid for Ethan's treatment, but also ensured Lily received medical care. In the days that followed, while Ethan recovered in the hospital, Robert devoted himself to learning more about the children's situation. Our parents died in a car accident, Lily explained, her voice trembling slightly. We didn't have anyone else. Social services wanted to separate us, send Ethan to one family and me to another. I couldn't let that happen. He's all I have left. Jennifer felt her heart constrict. The courage and determination of this little girl were both impressive and heartbreaking. That's when Uncle Robert came up with the idea of this apartment, Lily continued, gesturing around. He said it would be our secret, that he'd help us until we could legally stay together. As Lily spoke, Jennifer began to grasp the extent of Robert's involvement. He hadn't just provided a place for the children to live, he had made sure they had everything they needed: food, clothes, toys, and most importantly, the expensive medications Ethan needed for his condition. He came to visit whenever he could, Lily said, a small smile forming on her lips. Sometimes he brought presents, books for me, toys for Ethan. But the best part was when he just stayed here playing with us or reading stories. Jennifer listened, awestruck and moved. This was a side of Robert she had never known, a man capable of such generosity and love, willing to completely change the lives of two unknown children. He talked about you a lot, you know, Lily added, catching Jennifer by surprise. He showed us pictures, told us stories. He said that one day when everything was sorted out, he would introduce us, that we would be a family. Lily's words hit Jennifer like a physical blow. A family. Robert had wanted them to be a family. I'm sorry, Jennifer whispered, tears finally escaping. I'm sorry he never got the chance to do that. Lily leaned closer, hesitant, and to Jennifer's surprise took her hand. He loved you very much, the girl said softly. He always said you had the biggest heart in the world, and that one day you'd understand all this. Jennifer sobbed quietly, overwhelmed by emotion. Robert's kindness, Lily's strength, the innocence of the baby sleeping peacefully in the crib, all of it hit her at once. From the crib came a small whimper. Ethan was waking up. Can I see him? Jennifer asked hesitantly. Lily nodded and rose, guiding Jennifer to the crib. Ethan was stirring, his little eyes blinking sleepily. When he saw Lily, he broke into a toothless grin. Hi, little one, Lily whispered affectionately, scooping the baby into her arms with a skill that amazed Jennifer. There's someone here who wants to meet you. Jennifer watched as Lily cradled Ethan with ease. The bond between the siblings was palpable, and Jennifer felt a surge of admiration for the girl's maturity and devotion. He's beautiful, Jennifer commented softly, extending a finger that Ethan promptly grasped with his chubby hand. Do you want to hold him? Lily offered, surprising Jennifer. With a lump in her throat, Jennifer nodded. Lily carefully transferred Ethan to her arms, instructing her on how to properly support his head. The weight of Ethan in her arms felt at once strange and strangely familiar. Jennifer looked into the baby's face, noticing his large, curious eyes gazing back at her. There was something in his expression that reminded her of Robert, perhaps the same inherent kindness. Hi, Ethan, Jennifer whispered, tears threatening to return. I'm Jennifer. I was Uncle Robert's wife. Ethan gurgled happily, his tiny fist still clutching Jennifer's finger. He likes you, Lily commented, smiling as she watched the interaction. He usually cries with strangers. Jennifer laughed softly, gently rocking Ethan. I guess he knows I'm not exactly a stranger. As she held Ethan, Jennifer let her eyes roam the apartment again. Now that the initial shock had passed, she began to notice more details. On the wall were colorful drawings clearly done by Lily, portraying what looked like her, Ethan, and a tall figure who could only be Robert. On a shelf, she saw some educational toys she recognized as brands Robert used to buy for holiday charity drives. Next to the crib, a small table held several medication bottles, a notepad, and what appeared to be a medical journal. Lily, Jennifer called softly. What's that notebook by the crib? That's Uncle Robert's special book, Lily answered, moving to retrieve it. He wrote down everything about Ethan's medicine and how to take care of him when he gets sick. Jennifer balanced Ethan in one arm while accepting the notebook with her free hand. What she saw inside took her breath away. Page after page of meticulous notes, schedules, dosages, observations of symptoms, and responses to treatments. Robert had created a comprehensive medical journal documenting every aspect of Ethan's condition and care. The handwriting was unmistakably Robert's, but the level of detail, the medical knowledge, the sheer dedication evident in these pages showed a side of her husband Jennifer had never seen. He had taught himself complex medical procedures, researched treatment options, and trained Lily to administer medications with the precision of a nurse. Uncle Robert made up games to help me remember which medicine to give when, Lily explained, pointing to a colorful chart. The red ones are for morning, blue for night, and yellow for when Ethan has a fever. We pretended we were scientists finding the cure for a dragon's sneeze. Jennifer felt a surge of emotion so powerful it nearly overwhelmed her. This man, who shared her home, her bed, her life, had built a separate existence of such profound compassion and responsibility. He was amazing, Jennifer murmured. He made me promise to be brave, Lily said quietly. He said Ethan needed me to be strong, but sometimes it's hard. For the first time, the little girl's composure cracked slightly, revealing the frightened child beneath the mature facade. You won't have to do it alone anymore, Jennifer heard herself saying, surprised by the certainty in her voice. I'm here now. Lily looked up, hope and caution warring in her expression. Really? You'll help us? Yes, Jennifer answered, the decision crystallizing in her heart even as the words left her mouth. Robert wanted us to be a family. I want to honor that wish. Before Lily could respond, Jennifer's phone rang. The screen displayed James Wheeler. With a sigh, Jennifer handed Ethan back to Lily and stepped into the small kitchen to answer. Jennifer, where are you? James's voice carried poorly concealed irritation. The board has convened an emergency meeting. You need to be here immediately. An emergency meeting? I wasn't informed. That's because we couldn't reach you. You haven't been to the office in days, and investors are getting nervous. We need to discuss interim leadership. Jennifer felt a flash of anger. Interim leadership? James, I'm the CEO. A CEO who's been absent since her husband's death, James replied, his tone softening to something that sounded like concern but felt patronizing. No one expects you to function normally right now. The board is considering temporary measures until you're ready to return fully. Jennifer glanced back at Lily, who was feeding Ethan a bottle, murmuring softly to him, I'll be there within the hour. She ended the call, a sense of foreboding settling over her. In her corporate world, absence was interpreted as weakness, and weakness was never tolerated for long. I have to go to a meeting, Jennifer told Lily, returning to the living room. Company business, but I'll come back tonight, I promise. Is there anything you need before I leave? Lily hesitated, then pointed to the nearly empty medication bottles. We're almost out of Ethan's medicine. Jennifer nodded, making a mental note. I'll bring more tonight. And food, proper groceries. As Jennifer prepared to leave, Lily suddenly wrapped her arms around Jennifer's waist in a tight hug. Omos. Thank you, the little girl whispered. Jennifer felt something crack inside her chest, a wall of grief and numbness giving way to a warm flood of emotion. She hugged Lily back, careful not to disturb Ethan, who was dozing off again. I'll be back soon, Jennifer promised, and this time she meant it with every fiber of her being. The Harrington Pharmaceuticals headquarters rose like a gleaming monolith against the winter sky. Jennifer parked in her reserved space, noting that the boardroom lights were already on despite the early hour. Something didn't feel right. Victoria was waiting by the elevator, her usually composed face lined with worry. Mrs. Harrington, I need to speak with you before you go in. They stepped into an empty conference room where Victoria closed the door firmly behind them. James called a vote on interim leadership. He's positioning himself to take control temporarily while suggesting you take a leave of absence. On what grounds? Compassionate reasons, ostensibly. Victoria lowered her voice. But I've heard rumors. He's been meeting privately with major shareholders, implying you might not be emotionally stable enough to lead right now. Jennifer felt cold anger spreading through her veins. Thank you, Victoria. I'll handle this. The boardroom fell silent when Jennifer entered. 12 faces turned toward her, expressions ranging from surprise to discomfort. James stood at the head of the table, a position that belonged to her. "Jennifer," he said, recovering quickly, "we weren't sure you'd join us." "Clearly," Jennifer replied, moving purposefully toward her rightful place. James hesitated, then stepped aside. "Since I wasn't formally notified of this meeting, perhaps someone could bring me up to speed on the agenda." Richard Porter, head of legal, cleared his throat. "James has raised concerns about company stability during this difficult time. We were discussing the possibility of a temporary redistribution of responsibilities." "I see." Jennifer's voice was cool as winter air. "And did anyone consider consulting me first about my capacity to fulfill my duties?" The silence that followed was answer enough. Jennifer looked at each board member in turn, noting who met her gaze and who looked away. "My husband died 4 days ago. I have taken exactly 3 days to arrange his funeral and begin settling his affairs. During this time, our stock has remained stable, our Asian merger is proceeding on schedule, and no operational decisions have been delayed. So I'm curious about the nature of these concerns regarding company stability." James stepped forward. "Jennifer, no one questions your capabilities. We're simply concerned about your well-being. Taking on the full burden of leadership while grieving is too much for anyone." "Your concern is noted," Jennifer replied, "but unnecessary. Now, since we're all here, let's discuss the actual business requiring attention." For the next 2 hours, Jennifer led the meeting with a focus and clarity that silenced any whispers of incapacity. She presented updated projections for the Asian merger, addressed supply chain concerns, and approved the quarterly dividend. Throughout it all, part of her mind remained in that small apartment with Lily and Ethan. As the meeting concluded, Jennifer asked James to stay behind. When they were alone, she turned to him, her expression unreadable. "James, I value your contributions to this company, but if you ever attempt to circumvent my authority again, you'll find yourself looking for new employment. Are we clear?" James's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Crystal clear. I was only thinking of the company's best interests." "As am I," Jennifer replied, "always." After he left, Jennifer sank into her chair, exhausted. The corporate battle had been won for now, but she sensed this was just the beginning. More concerning, however, was a growing realization that the company she had devoted her life to building suddenly seemed less important than 2 children she barely knew. Jennifer spent the rest of the afternoon in Robert's office at the company headquarters, searching for any clues about his involvement with Lily and Ethan. The space was immaculate as always. Robert had been meticulous about his workspace, everything in perfect order. She began with his desk drawers, finding nothing unusual. His computer yielded no insights either. Robert had always been careful about separating personal matters from business. It was when Jennifer examined the bookcase that she noticed something odd. A book on pediatric autoimmune disorders sat between financial reports and business management texts. Pulling it out, Jennifer found it was heavily annotated in Robert's handwriting. Pages were marked with questions, potential treatments, research notes. Robert had been educating himself about Ethan's condition with the same thoroughness he applied to business acquisitions. As she replaced the book, Jennifer's hand brushed against the back of the shelf, and she felt something give way. A click sounded, and a small compartment at the base of the bookcase sprang open. Inside lay a leather-bound journal and a USB drive. Jennifer's hands trembled as she opened the journal. Robert's familiar handwriting filled the pages, detailing not only his meetings with Lily and Ethan, but also his plans for the future. "Met with Marcus Chen today to discuss legal pathways to guardianship," one entry read. "The process is complicated without biological connection, but not impossible. Lily deserves stability, a real home where she and Ethan can grow together. I need to find the right moment to tell Jennifer." Another entry described a visit to the park. "Took Lily and Ethan to Lincoln Park today. Lily rode the carousel 3 times, laughing the entire time. Ethan watched everything with those serious eyes of his. I realized today I love these children as if they were my own. They've filled a void I didn't know existed in my life." Tears streamed down Jennifer's face as she read about Robert's growing attachment to the children, his determination to provide for them, his plans to eventually bring them into his and Jennifer's lives permanently. The final entry, dated the day before his death, hit her like a physical blow. "Tomorrow I'll tell Jennifer everything. It's time she knew about Lily and Ethan, about what they've come to mean to me. I've hesitated too long, worried about her reaction, about disrupting our carefully constructed life. But seeing how Lily asks about Jennifer, how she treasures the stories I tell about my brilliant, compassionate wife, I know it's time. Jennifer has the biggest heart of anyone I have ever known. She'll understand. Tomorrow, everything changes. Jennifer closed the journal, her heart aching with loss and regret. Robert had been right about her understanding, but he'd been wrong to wait so long. How many shared moments had they missed because of his hesitation? How different might things be now if he'd told her sooner? With shaking hands, Jennifer inserted the USB drive into Robert's computer. It contained a single folder labeled Future Fund. Inside were detailed spreadsheets, project proposals, and a draft charter for a foundation. Robert had meticulously planned everything. His dream of using a significant portion of the company's profits to help children in need wasn't just a vague idea, it was a concrete, well-thought-out plan. The Children's Future Fund would focus specifically on providing medical care to orphaned children with chronic conditions, ensuring they could remain with siblings or extended family instead of being separated by the system. Jennifer spent hours absorbing every detail of Robert's projects. The more she read, the more in awe she felt of her husband's vision and compassion, and the more determined she became to make these plans a reality. When she finally leaned back in the chair, exhausted but her mind buzzing with ideas, Jennifer knew what she had to do. Picking up her phone, she made 2 calls. The first was to her assistant, instructing her to schedule a meeting with the legal department the next morning. The second was to Lily. "Hey, Lily," she said when the girl answered, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "I have some news to share with you. Can I bring dinner tonight?" On her way to the apartment, Jennifer stopped at a grocery store, filling a cart with fresh produce, meats, pantry staples, and, after a moment's hesitation, a chocolate cake. She also collected Ethan's prescriptions from the pharmacy, using her position as CEO to expedite the process. When she arrived at the apartment, laden with bags, Lily's face lit up in a way that made Jennifer's heart swell. Together they unpacked groceries, Lily explaining where everything belonged in the small kitchen with the seriousness of a much older person. "Uncle Robert taught me to cook simple things," Lily said proudly. "I can make pasta and eggs and sandwiches." Jennifer smiled. "That's very impressive. Maybe tonight we can cook together?" As they prepared a simple dinner, Jennifer found herself enjoying the domestic activity in a way she rarely had before. Her home kitchen was top of the line, barely used except by their private chef. This tiny space with its ancient stove and limited counter space somehow felt more real, more intimate. After dinner, with Ethan playing on a blanket nearby, Jennifer showed Lily the journal. "Robert kept this," she explained gently. "It's about you and Ethan and his plans for your future." Lily touched the leather cover reverently. "Can you read some to me?" Jennifer selected a few passages that showcased Robert's love for the children, his hopes for them, his plans to create a stable home. Lily listened with rapt attention, occasionally nodding as if confirming details she already knew. "He wanted us to be a family," Lily said when Jennifer finished. "All of us together." "Yes," Jennifer confirmed softly. "And I want that too, Lily. I want to continue what Robert started. I want to take care of you and Ethan." Lily studied Jennifer's face, searching for something. Whatever she saw must have satisfied her because she suddenly flung her arms around Jennifer's neck. "I knew you would understand," she whispered. "Uncle Robert always said you would." As Jennifer held the little girl close, she felt a certainty she hadn't experienced since Robert's death. This was right. This was what Robert would have wanted, and more importantly, it was what she wanted too. Their moment was interrupted by a knock on the door. Lily stiffened immediately, fear flashing across her face. "It's okay," Jennifer assured her, though her own heart had begun to race. "I'll see who it is." A woman in her 40s stood in the hallway, dressed in a practical pantsuit, a leather portfolio tucked under one arm. Her expression was professionally neutral, but her eyes were sharp and assessing. "Jennifer Harrington?" she asked. At Jennifer's nod, she continued, "I'm Melissa Connor from Child Protective Services. May I come in? We need to discuss the children." Jennifer felt a chill run through her. "How did you know I was here?" We received a report about 2 minors living without adult supervision, Melissa explained, her tone matter-of-fact. The building manager mentioned you've been visiting. I'd like to understand the situation. Jennifer stepped aside, allowing Melissa to enter. Lily had already gathered Ethan in her arms and stood in the center of the living room, her face a mask of barely controlled panic. It's all right, Lily, Jennifer said, trying to project a calm she didn't feel. Ms. Connor just wants to talk. The social worker spent the next hour asking questions, observing the apartment, and taking notes. She inquired about the children's history, their relationship with Robert, the care arrangements, and Jennifer's sudden involvement. So you're telling me your late husband was secretly caring for these children for months, and you knew nothing about it until after his death? Melissa's skepticism was evident. Yes, Jennifer answered honestly. Robert was planning to tell me, but he never got the chance. Melissa turned her attention to Lily. And how do you feel about Mrs. Harrington, Lily? Lily, who had been watching the exchange with worried eyes, spoke without hesitation. She's kind, like Uncle Robert said she would be. She's helping us stay together. Melissa made another note, then addressed Jennifer again. What exactly are your intentions regarding these children, Mrs. Harrington? I want to provide for them, Jennifer answered, the conviction in her voice surprising even herself. I want to honor my husband's commitment to their welfare. Ultimately, I'd like to apply for legal guardianship. Melissa's eyebrows rose slightly. That's a significant undertaking for a recently widowed executive. Are you certain you've considered all the implications? I'm still processing everything, Jennifer admitted. But yes, I'm certain about wanting to help them. After Melissa left, promising to return for further assessment, Lily remained unusually quiet. Jennifer found her sitting on the edge of her small bed, clutching a worn teddy bear. Are they going to take us away? Lily asked, her voice small and frightened. Jennifer sat beside her, putting an arm around the thin shoulders. Not if I can help it. I promised I'd take care of you, and I meant it. But that lady didn't seem to believe you. Ms. Connor is just doing her job, Jennifer explained gently. She needs to make sure you and Ethan are safe and well cared for. We'll convince her together. That night, Jennifer stayed at the apartment, sleeping on the pull-out couch that Robert had used during his visits. The mattress was thin and uncomfortable, nothing like her luxury king-size bed at home, but somehow she slept more peacefully than she had since Robert's death. In the morning, she woke to find Lily already up, feeding Ethan his breakfast with practiced efficiency. You're good at that, Jennifer commented, watching the little girl wipe Ethan's chin with gentle care. Lily looked up, a hint of pride in her smile. Uncle Robert taught me. He said I was the best nurse Ethan could have. Jennifer felt her heart swell with admiration for this brave, responsible child, and with renewed love for her husband, who had recognized and nurtured these qualities. I have to go to work today, Jennifer said, helping clean up after breakfast. There are important meetings I can't miss, but I'll come back tonight and we can talk more about what happens next. Lily nodded, though Jennifer noticed the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. How many adults had made promises to this child only to disappear? I promise, Lily, Jennifer said, kneeling to meet the girl's eyes. I will come back. At Harrington Pharmaceuticals, Jennifer spent the morning with the legal department, discussing the possibility of establishing the foundation Robert had envisioned. Marcus Chen, the company's lead counsel, reviewed the documents from the USB drive with growing interest. This is remarkably thorough, he commented. Robert had clearly put significant thought into this project. Can we make it happen? Jennifer asked. Marcus considered. Legally, yes, the company charter allows for philanthropic initiatives. The question is whether the board will approve allocating 30% of profits to such an endeavor. Leave the board to me, Jennifer replied. I want to announce this at the next shareholders meeting. The Robert Harrington Children's Future Fund. Her next meeting was with the Human Resources Director regarding Victoria Reed's sudden dismissal. Who authorized this? Jennifer demanded. The HR director looked uncomfortable. James Wheeler signed off on it yesterday, part of the restructuring he proposed. Restructuring that was never approved, Jennifer countered. Contact Victoria immediately. Offer her position back with an increase in salary and my personal apology. The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and calls, but Jennifer's thoughts kept returning to Lily and Ethan. During a brief lunch break, She called the apartment to check on them, relieved when Lily answered and reported that everything was fine. It was late afternoon when James Wheeler appeared in her office doorway. "Jennifer," he greeted her with a tight smile. "Do you have a moment?" "Of course, James. Come in." He closed the door behind him, taking a seat across from her desk. "I understand you've reinstated Victoria Reed." "Yes, her dismissal was unauthorized and unnecessary." James leaned forward. "Jennifer, I respect your authority as CEO, but I'm concerned about your recent decisions. Taking personal interest in your husband's pet charity cases, bringing back unnecessary staff, spending company time on non-business matters." Jennifer felt a flash of anger, but kept her expression neutral. "I wasn't aware you were monitoring my schedule so closely, James. The board has asked me to keep an eye on operations during this transition period. Your behavior has been erratic since Robert's death, which is understandable but potentially detrimental to the company. My behavior has been focused on honoring my husband's legacy while maintaining the company's performance." Jennifer corrected him. "The Children's Future Fund was Robert's vision for the company's philanthropic direction, a vision I fully support." James's expression hardened slightly. 30% of profits directed to charity is not a minor adjustment, Jennifer. It's a fundamental restructuring of our business model, one that will generate significant tax benefits and positive public relations," Jennifer countered. "Not to mention fulfill our corporate social responsibility in a meaningful way. The board may not see it that way." "Then I'll convince them," Jennifer said with quiet determination. "This foundation will happen, James. Robert wanted it, and so do I." After he left, Jennifer sat back in her chair, a sense of unease settling over her. James's concern seemed excessive for what amounted to a corporate philanthropic initiative, even a large one. There was something else at play here, something she couldn't quite see yet. Victoria knocked on her door, looking somewhat shaken despite her reinstatement. "Mrs. Harrington, thank you for your intervention on my behalf." "It was the right thing to do," Jennifer assured him. "James had no authority to terminate your position." Victoria hesitated, then spoke in a lowered voice. "There's something you should know. Before Mr. Harrington's accident, he asked me to compile some information about company financials, specifically focusing on departments under James's control. He never told me why, but he seemed concerned about discrepancies he'd found." Jennifer leaned forward. "What kind of discrepancies?" "I'm not sure. The data collection wasn't complete, but whatever he found, it worried him enough that he was planning to bring it to your attention." Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. James's aggressive moves to consolidate power, his resistance to the foundation, his monitoring of Jennifer's activities. Could he be hiding something that Robert had begun to uncover? "Thank you, Victoria. Please continue the research Robert started." Discreetly. By the time Jennifer left the office that evening, her mind was spinning with new questions and concerns. The corporate politics she had always navigated so skillfully now seemed more treacherous, with stakes higher than ever before. She stopped to pick up dinner on her way to the apartment, choosing a family-style restaurant that offered comfort food. As she waited for the order, her phone rang. The hospital number on the screen sent a chill through her. "Mrs. Harrington, this is Dr. Kapoor from Central Hospital. We have a young child named Ethan admitted to our emergency department. Your contact information was given by his sister." Jennifer's heart nearly stopped. "Is he all right? What happened?" "His autoimmune condition has flared severely. He's currently stable but will require intensive treatment. The sister Lily asked specifically for you." "Tell her I'm on my way." Jennifer abandoned the food order and rushed to her car, fear clutching at her throat. The drive to the hospital seemed endless. Every red light an eternity, every slow vehicle an insurmountable obstacle. The emergency department was a chaos of lights and sounds. Jennifer spotted Lily immediately, a small island of stillness amid the rush of medical personnel. The little girl sat alone on a plastic chair, her feet dangling, her eyes fixed on a set of double doors where Ethan had presumably been taken. "Lily," Jennifer called, hurrying to her side. Lily looked up, her face tear-stained but composed. When she saw Jennifer, something in her expression crumbled, revealing the frightened child beneath the brave facade. "You came," she whispered, as if she hadn't quite believed Jennifer would. Of course I came, Jennifer said, gathering the little girl into her arms. What happened? Lily explained in a trembling voice how Ethan had suddenly spiked a high fever, how his breathing had become labored. She had called the emergency number Robert had taught her, and an ambulance had brought them to the hospital. The doctors took him away, Lily concluded. They wouldn't let me stay with him. Jennifer held her close. You did exactly the right thing, Lily. Ethan is getting the help he needs because of you. A doctor approached them, clipboard in hand. Are you the guardian? He asked Jennifer. The question hung in the air, pregnant with implications. Legally, Jennifer had no relationship to these children, but in her heart, the answer was clear. Yes, she said firmly, I am. The doctor nodded, accepting her answer without further question. Ethan is experiencing an acute flare of his autoimmune condition. We've started him on high-dose immunosuppressants and antibiotics for a secondary infection. He's stabilized but will need to remain hospitalized for several days. Can we see him? Jennifer asked. Briefly, he's sleeping now. Jennifer took Lily's hand as they followed the doctor through the double doors. Ethan lay in a hospital crib, his tiny body connected to monitors and an IV. His face was flushed with fever, his breathing shallow but steady. Lily approached the crib with practiced caution, as if familiar with hospital protocols. She reached through the bars to gently touch her brother's hand. I'm here, Ethan, she whispered. Jennifer is here too. You're going to be okay. The simple faith in her voice broke something in Jennifer's heart. This child had shouldered responsibilities no child should bear, and yet she remained steady, loving, and hopeful. As they stood watching Ethan sleep, Jennifer's phone vibrated with a message. It was from her assistant. Emergency board meeting called for tomorrow 8 a.m. Agenda, vote on interim leadership. Jay Wheeler presiding. Jennifer stared at the screen, understanding dawning. James was making his move while she was distracted by Ethan's illness. A calculated power play at the most vulnerable moment. She had a choice to make. Attend the meeting to defend her position as CEO, or stay with Lily and Ethan during this crisis. Career or family. The company she had helped build, or the children her husband had loved. In that sterile hospital room, watching Lily's gentle care for her brother, the answer became clear. Robert had made his choice months ago when he found two children in need. Now it was her turn. Lily, Jennifer said softly, would it be okay if I stayed here tonight, with you and Ethan? Lily looked up, surprise and hope mingling in her eyes. You'll stay? The whole night? Yes, Jennifer answered, making her decision final. The whole night, and tomorrow too if you need me. Lily's small hand found Jennifer's, fingers intertwining with surprising strength. Uncle Robert said you had the biggest heart in the world, she whispered. He was right. As the night settled around them, Jennifer sent a brief email to Victoria with instructions for the morning meeting. Whatever happened at Harrington Pharmaceuticals tomorrow, she would face it later. For now, her place was here, with the family Robert had begun to build and had entrusted to her care. In the quiet beeping of hospital monitors, in the gentle rise and fall of Ethan's chest, in the warm pressure of Lily's hand in hers, Jennifer found a purpose deeper than any corporate achievement. For the first time since Robert's death, she felt something like peace. Morning light filtered through the thin hospital curtains, casting patterns across the vinyl floor. Jennifer awoke with a stiff neck, her body protesting the uncomfortable arrangement of the visitor's chair where she had spent the night. Lily slept curled against her side, small fingers still clutching Jennifer's blouse, as if afraid she might disappear. On the bed, Ethan rested peacefully, his fever reduced by the medications flowing through the IV line. The angry red flush had faded from his cheeks, replaced by the pale softness of healing. A nurse entered quietly, checking monitors and recording vitals with practiced efficiency. His numbers are improving, she whispered to Jennifer, offering a reassuring smile. Doctor will be by soon. Jennifer nodded, careful not to disturb Lily. Her phone displayed multiple missed calls and urgent messages from the office. The board meeting would begin in 30 minutes. Victoria had sent detailed notes about James's planned maneuvers and potential countermeasures. For a moment, Jennifer felt the pull of corporate responsibility, the years of dedication to the company she had helped build. Then Lily stirred against her, mumbling something in her sleep about Uncle Robert, and Jennifer's priorities crystallized with sudden clarity. Some battles were worth fighting in person. Others could be waged from afar. She sent Victoria a message authorizing her to act as proxy with full executive authority, along with specific instructions about the foundation proposal. Whatever happened, the Robert Harrington Children's Future Fund would become reality. Dr. Kapoor arrived as Lily was waking up, rubbing sleep from her eyes with small fists. Ethan's responding well to treatment, he explained, reviewing charts and lab results. The immunosuppressants are controlling the flare, but we need to maintain careful monitoring. This is a particularly aggressive manifestation of his condition. What's the long-term prognosis? Jennifer asked, the words feeling strange in her mouth, simultaneously foreign and deeply personal. Dr. Kapoor's expression grew thoughtful. With proper treatment and monitoring, many children with this condition can lead relatively normal lives. But it requires consistent care, expensive medications, and immediate intervention during flares. He paused, his gaze shifting between Jennifer and Lily. May I ask about your relationship to the children? The records show minimal history. Jennifer hesitated, feeling Lily tense beside her. Robert Harrington was providing for their care, she said carefully. I'm continuing that commitment. The doctor nodded, accepting this partial explanation. Well, whoever has been managing his medications has done an exceptional job. The detailed records provided by this young lady saved precious time in diagnosis and treatment. Lily straightened at this praise, a hint of pride breaking through her worry. Uncle Robert taught me everything. We made charts and games so I'd remember which medicines are for which symptoms. Dr. Kapoor smiled at her. You're quite the medical assistant. Ethan is lucky to have such a dedicated sister. After the doctor left, Jennifer helped Lily freshen up in the small bathroom, then went to find coffee and breakfast. When she returned with juice boxes and pastries, she found Melissa Connor, the social worker, sitting beside Ethan's bed, engaged in quiet conversation with Lily. Mrs. Harrington, Melissa said, rising, I received notification that Ethan had been admitted. Yes, Jennifer replied, setting down the food. He had an acute flare last night. And you stayed. It wasn't a question, but an observation, something registering in the social worker's professional assessment. Of course I stayed. Melissa gestured toward the hallway. May we speak privately? In the corridor, Melissa's professional demeanor remained intact, but something in her expression had softened slightly. I've been investigating the children's situation, she began. Their parents died 14 months ago in a multi-vehicle collision. With no identified relatives, they entered foster care, but were separated due to Ethan's medical needs. Lily ran away from her placement 3 times, attempting to reunite with her brother. Jennifer's heart constricted, thinking of Lily's determination to protect Ethan, even at such a young age. 6 months ago, Melissa continued, they both disappeared from the system. Despite search efforts, they weren't located. She paused. Now I find them in an apartment paid for by your late husband, with medical care far beyond standard coverage. Robert found them by chance, Jennifer explained. He couldn't bear to see them separated again, so he created an arrangement outside the system. He was working on legal solutions when he died. Melissa studied Jennifer carefully. And now you've taken up his cause. Yes. Why? The question hung between them, deceptively simple yet profound. Jennifer considered her words carefully. Because it matters, she finally said. Because Robert saw something worth protecting in these children. Something worth changing his life for. Because Lily shouldn't have to be a parent at 4 years old, and Ethan deserves the chance to grow up healthy beside his sister. She took a deep breath. Because they've lost everyone, and I refuse to let them lose each other too. Melissa made a note in her file. You understand that informal guardianship isn't sustainable. There are legal processes, evaluations, home studies. I'll do whatever is necessary. It won't be easy, Melissa warned. A single, recently widowed executive with no childcare experience wanting to adopt 2 children, one with complex medical needs. The courts will have significant concerns. So would I in their position, Jennifer acknowledged, but I'm committed to this. I'll make whatever changes are needed. Something shifted in Melissa's expression, professional skepticism giving way to cautious respect. I believe you mean that, Mrs. Harrington. But meaning it and doing it are different things. Watch me, Jennifer replied simply. When they returned to the room, Jennifer found Lily sitting beside her brother's bed, carefully feeding him ice chips, while telling him a story about a brave knight who fought invisible dragons. The scene struck Jennifer with such tender force that she had to pause, steadying herself against unexpected emotion. This was what Robert had seen. This was what had changed him. And now it was changing her too. Her phone vibrated, Victoria calling from the board meeting. Jennifer stepped out again to answer. James made his move, Victoria reported without preamble. He proposed temporary leadership restructuring, citing your absence and emotional state as primary concerns. Jennifer took a deep breath. And? The vote failed. Victoria couldn't quite keep the satisfaction from her voice. Your prepared statement about continuing Robert's philanthropic vision while maintaining corporate excellence was quite effective. Also, the quarterly projections I presented showed strength across all divisions. Relief washed through Jennifer. And the foundation proposal? Mixed reception, as expected. The percentage is the sticking point. Many board members support the concept but balk at 30% of profits. We'll negotiate, Jennifer decided, but not below 20. Robert was adamant about making meaningful impact. After ending the call, Jennifer leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. The corporate battle had been postponed, not won. James Wheeler would regroup and try again. But she had bought time, and time was what she needed most right now. The next 3 days passed in a blur of hospital routines, medication schedules, and stolen moments of work handled via phone and laptop. Jennifer rarely left Ethan's bedside, except when Lily needed attention or care. She learned to read medical charts, to recognize concerning symptoms, to advocate with doctors and nurses when treatment seemed inadequate. On the fourth morning, Jennifer woke feeling nauseated, a sensation she attributed to hospital coffee and irregular meals. By noon, when the smell of Lily's lunch sent her rushing to the bathroom, she could no longer ignore the pattern of recent days. Are you sick? Lily asked when Jennifer returned, face pale and hands trembling slightly. Just tired, I think, Jennifer reassured her, though a suspicion was forming in her mind. How about we read another chapter of that book while Ethan naps? That evening, after Lily had fallen asleep in the cot beside Ethan's bed, Jennifer slipped out to the hospital pharmacy. 10 minutes later, locked in a bathroom stall, she stared at 2 blue lines appearing on a plastic test, their simple presence reshaping her entire future. Pregnant, with Robert's child. She sank onto the closed toilet lid, one hand instinctively moving to her still flat abdomen. A baby. Their baby. Created in those last days before Robert's death, when neither had any inkling of the changes coming to their lives. Tears flowed freely down her face, but these were different from the tears of grief she had shed since Robert's death. These contained something new, something like hope. Robert would never meet this child, never hold their baby, never see him or her grow. The thought brought fresh pain, sharp and clean. Yet somehow this new life felt like a gift, a final connection to the man she had loved and was only now beginning to truly know. When Jennifer returned to the room, she found Lily awake, watching over her brother with solemn attention. Everything okay? The little girl asked, her perceptiveness far beyond her years. Jennifer sat beside her, suddenly nervous. How would Lily react to this news? Would she feel threatened, afraid of being replaced in Jennifer's growing affection? Lily, she began carefully, I just found out something important, something that might change things for all of us. She took a deep breath. I'm going to have a baby. Robert's baby. Lily's eyes widened, staring at Jennifer's stomach as if expecting immediate evidence. A baby? She whispered. Uncle Robert's baby? Jennifer nodded, watching the child's face carefully. For a long moment, Lily said nothing, processing this information with the serious consideration she gave all important matters. Then, to Jennifer's surprise, she flung her arms around Jennifer's neck, hugging her tightly. Oh, Jennifer, she sobbed, her small body trembling. This is wonderful. Jennifer hugged her back, her own tears returning. They stayed like that for a long time, sharing a complex mix of emotions: joy, sorrow, hope, fear. When they finally pulled apart, Lily looked at Jennifer with a serious expression. What does this mean for us, for me and Ethan? Jennifer's heart clenched at the obvious worry in Lily's voice. She took the girl's hands in hers, looking into her eyes. Lily, listen to me. This changes nothing about how I feel about you and Ethan. You are my family now, just as much as this baby. We're going to be a family, all of us together. It's what Robert wanted, and it's what I want too. Lily nodded slowly, a small smile forming on her lips. Our family, she repeated softly. All of us together. Exactly, Jennifer confirmed, feeling a wave of love for this brave, mature child. And together we're going to fulfill Robert's dream. We'll use the company to help other kids, to make the difference he always wanted to make. At that moment, as if sensing the importance of the conversation, Ethan began to whimper in his crib. Lily stood up to get him, but Jennifer stopped her gently. May I? She asked. Lily nodded, watching as Jennifer picked Ethan up and rocked him gently. The baby calmed almost immediately, his eyes fixed on Jennifer's face. Hey there, little guy, Jennifer murmured. Looks like you're going to have a little brother or sister soon. What do you think of that? Ethan cooed happily, making Lily and Jennifer laugh. I think he approves, Lily commented, smiling genuinely. Jennifer looked at Lily, then at Ethan in her arms, then placed a hand on her own belly. Her family. It wasn't anything she or Robert had ever planned, but it was perfect in its own unique way. Ethan's condition improved steadily over the following days. By the end of the week, Dr. Kapoor declared him ready for discharge, with careful monitoring and follow-up appointments scheduled. He's resilient, the doctor told Jennifer, but his condition requires vigilance. Any fever, unusual fatigue, or rash needs immediate attention. Jennifer nodded, mentally adding these details to the growing catalog of medical knowledge she had absorbed. Caring for Ethan would be a lifelong commitment, requiring resources, education, and unfailing attention. The responsibility should have felt overwhelming. Instead, it felt right, as if she had been preparing for this role without knowing it. The apartment in Riverside suddenly seemed inadequate, too small, too far from quality medical facilities, lacking the security that Ethan's condition demanded. On the drive back from the hospital, Jennifer made a decision. Lily, she said gently, how would you feel about moving to a new home, somewhere with more space, closer to the hospital? Lily considered this, stroking Ethan's hair as he dozed in his car seat. Would we still be together? All of us? Yes, absolutely. We'd be together. Then I think that would be good, Lily decided. Ethan needs to be close to doctors. That weekend, Jennifer listed her mansion for sale. The sprawling property with its marble floors and crystal chandeliers no longer felt like home. It belonged to a different life, a different Jennifer. With Marcus Chen's help, she found a warm, welcoming house in a family neighborhood 20 minutes from downtown. 4 bedrooms, a fenced yard, excellent schools nearby, and most importantly, 5 minutes from the pediatric specialty center where Ethan would receive ongoing care. As Jennifer signed the purchase agreement, Marcus cleared his throat. Jennifer, about the adoption process. We should discuss realistic expectations. Jennifer looked up from the paperwork. I'm listening. The courts favor biological connections, stable marriages, and established parenting experience. You're a single, recently widowed executive with a demanding career, now pregnant with your first biological child. And while your financial resources are considerable, the courts will scrutinize your ability to provide emotional stability and consistent care, especially for a child with Ethan's needs. Jennifer nodded, acknowledging these realities. What do you suggest? Documentation of your commitment, regular visits from Melissa Connor showing your consistent presence and care. Character references from medical professionals who've observed your interaction with the children. He paused. And possibly career adjustments that demonstrate your prioritization of family needs. The implication was clear. Jennifer's role as CEO might be incompatible with her new goals. I understand, she said quietly. Whatever it takes. The following Monday, Jennifer called a special board meeting. Standing before the executives who had been her colleagues and competitors for years, she felt a strange calm. The corporate maneuvering that had once seemed so crucial now appeared in a different light. As you know, she began, Robert's death revealed aspects of his life unknown to me, including his care for 2 orphaned children. In honor of his memory and his vision, I am establishing the Robert Harrington Children's Future Fund with 25% of our annual profits. Murmurs rippled through the room. James Wheeler's face darkened with barely concealed anger. "This is absurd," he interjected. "The board would never approve such a radical reduction in shareholder returns." Jennifer turned to him, her expression calm but determined. "The proposal includes comprehensive tax advantages and marketing benefits that offset much of the apparent cost. More importantly, it aligns with emerging corporate responsibility standards that will position Harrington Pharmaceuticals as an industry leader in social impact." She distributed detailed prospectuses prepared with Victoria's help, containing financial projections, tax analyses, and market research supporting the foundation's potential benefits. "This isn't just about charity," Jennifer continued. "It's about legacy. Robert believed our company could do more than generate profit. He believed we could transform lives. I intend to honor that vision." The debate that followed was intense but ultimately productive. Board members raised concerns, suggested modifications, proposed compromise percentages. Jennifer listened, negotiated, and stood firm on the essential elements. By meeting's end, the board had provisionally approved a 20% allocation to the foundation, pending final review of legal structures and governance protocols. As executives filed out, James Wheeler lingered behind, his expression unreadable. "Impressive performance," Honey said, voice low enough that only Jennifer could hear. "But this foundation won't save your position if you continue neglecting core business responsibilities." "Is that a threat, James?" "An observation. You've missed 8 executive meetings in 2 weeks. Development deadlines for the Asian merger are approaching with minimal input from you. The board is noticing." Jennifer met his gaze steadily. "The board also notices that our stock has risen 3 points since I announced the foundation initiative. Corporate responsibility sells, James. Even you should appreciate that." His eyes narrowed slightly. "Just remember where your primary obligations lie." After he left, Victoria entered with a troubled expression. "You should see this," she said, handing Jennifer a tablet displaying internal company emails. "I continued the financial investigation Robert started." Jennifer scrolled through the messages, her concern growing with each exchange. James had been systematically diverting research funding from approved projects to unauthorized experimental trials in Southeast Asian facilities, bypassing regulatory oversight and ethical review boards. "How long has this been happening?" "At least 18 months, Victoria replied. "Robert discovered discrepancies in the quarterly reports just before his accident. He was gathering evidence to present to you and the board." Jennifer felt cold anger rising within her. James hadn't just been undermining her leadership. He'd been compromising the company's integrity, potentially endangering patients and research subjects. "Prepare a complete dossier," Jennifer instructed. "Financial trails, unauthorized trials, regulatory violations, everything, and contact our outside counsel. This needs to be handled carefully." 2 days later, Jennifer received an unexpected visitor at her temporary apartment. Melissa Connor arrived unannounced, her expression uncharacteristically sympathetic. "I've completed my initial assessment," she said, settling onto the sofa while Lily showed Ethan a picture book in the adjoining room. "I wanted to deliver my recommendations personally." Jennifer braced herself. "And?" "I'm supporting your petition for temporary guardianship, with a pathway to permanent adoption pending continued demonstration of stability and care." Relief washed over Jennifer. "Thank you," she said simply. Melissa nodded. "Your commitment has been evident. The children are clearly bonded with you, and your resources ensure they'll receive necessary care." She paused. "However, I do have concerns about your work demands potentially conflicting with Ethan's needs." "I've been considering that," Jennifer admitted. "I'm exploring leadership restructuring options that would allow more flexibility." "Good, because these children need consistency above all. They've experienced too much loss already." After Melissa left, Jennifer sat alone in the kitchen, contemplating the road ahead. The company she had helped build now seemed both central to her ability to care for the children and potentially incompatible with their needs. Something would need to change. The answer came to her gradually over the following weeks as she balanced hospital appointments, custody paperwork, house renovations, and corporate responsibilities. The solution wasn't abandoning the company or maintaining the status quo, it was transformation. Jennifer convened another board meeting, this time with a different proposal. Standing before her colleagues, her pregnancy now visible beneath her tailored suit, she outlined a new corporate structure. Effective immediately, I am creating the position of Chief Operations Officer to manage daily business execution, allowing me to focus on strategic direction and foundation development as Executive Chairwoman. The recommendation surprised the board, particularly her nominee for the COO position, Victoria Reed. Ms. Reed has demonstrated exceptional capabilities in operations, financial oversight, and organizational leadership, Jennifer explained. More importantly, she embodies the values that have made Harrington Pharmaceuticals successful. James Wheeler's objection was immediate and predictable. This is unprecedented. Victoria lacks the executive experience for such a critical role. Jennifer met his gaze calmly. Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment to discuss the findings of our internal audit. She distributed sealed folders to each board member. These documents detail unauthorized research activities, regulatory violations, and financial irregularities within departments under Mr. Wheeler's supervision. Outside counsel has been consulted regarding potential legal implications. The room fell silent as executives reviewed the evidence. James's face paled, then flushed with anger. "This is a fabrication," he snapped, "a desperate attempt to divert attention from your own leadership failures." "The financial records speak for themselves," Jennifer replied evenly, "as do the testimonies from research staff at our Bangkok facility. Robert discovered your activities shortly before his death. I've simply completed his investigation." Within an hour, the board had approved Victoria's appointment and placed James Wheeler on administrative leave pending a comprehensive investigation. The corporate battle Jennifer had anticipated for months concluded not with prolonged warfare, but with a single decisive strike. As Jennifer left the boardroom, she felt Robert's presence beside her, approving and proud. The foundation he envisioned would become reality. The company they built together would continue its mission, albeit with a new structure that accommodated her changing priorities. Most importantly, Lily and Ethan would have the stability, care, and family they deserved. The judicial hearing for temporary guardianship occurred on a bright spring morning. Jennifer arrived at the courthouse with Lily and Ethan, all three dressed in their finest clothes. Marcus Chen met them at the entrance, his expression cautiously optimistic. "Judge Montgomery has reviewed your petition and supporting documents," he explained as they walked toward the courtroom. "She's thorough but fair. The home study reports are excellent, and Dr. Kapoor's letter regarding your care of Ethan during his hospitalization was particularly compelling." Inside the courtroom, Melissa Connor was already seated, her professional demeanor intact, though she offered Jennifer an encouraging nod. Several colleagues from Harrington Pharmaceuticals had come to show support, including Victoria and members of the research team who had worked closely with Robert. Judge Montgomery, a stern-looking woman with silver hair and penetrating eyes, called the proceedings to order. She reviewed the case details methodically, occasionally asking clarifying questions about Jennifer's relationship with the children, her understanding of Ethan's medical needs, and her plans for balancing professional and family responsibilities. "Mrs. Harrington," the judge finally said, her gaze direct and evaluating, "you are requesting temporary guardianship of two minor children with whom you have no biological connection, while simultaneously preparing for the birth of your own child and managing a major corporation. That's an extraordinary undertaking for anyone, let alone someone still grieving a spouse." "Yes, Your Honor," Jennifer replied steadily. Why take on such tremendous responsibility when you're already facing significant life changes?" Jennifer glanced at Lily, who watched the proceedings with solemn attention, her small hand protectively covering Ethan's. "Because some responsibilities choose us, Your Honor. Robert found these children by chance, but his choice to help them was deliberate. His commitment to their welfare became part of who he was." Jennifer placed a hand on her growing belly. "Just as this child is part of our shared legacy, so too are Lily and Ethan. They're already family in every way that matters. The paperwork is just catching up to reality." Judge Montgomery's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "And you understand the permanent nature of this commitment, the medical challenges, educational needs, emotional support these children will require for years to come?" "I do." The judge reviewed her notes one final time, then looked up. "Based on the evidence presented, the character testimonies provided, and the obvious bond between petitioner and children, this court grants temporary guardianship to Jennifer Harrington for a period of 6 months. after which permanent adoption proceedings may commence pending continued demonstration of stable and nurturing care. Lily's face lit up with joy. Before Jennifer could stop her, the little girl had darted forward. "Thank you, Judge," she said earnestly. "Jennifer is the best mom. Uncle Robert told us she would be." Judge Montgomery's stern facade cracked into a gentle smile. "Well, young lady, it seems your uncle was quite perceptive." That evening, Jennifer, Lily, and Ethan celebrated with a picnic dinner in their new home. The moving company had delivered the essential furniture, though most rooms remained filled with unpacked boxes. It didn't matter. The house already felt more like home than the mansion ever had. As Lily helped Ethan with his dinner, Jennifer watched them with quiet wonder. 6 months ago, her life had seemed perfectly arranged, predictable in its success and comfort. Now everything had changed, reconfigured by loss and discovery into something messier but infinitely more meaningful. The coming months passed in a blur of nesting activities. Jennifer split her time between establishing the foundation, supporting Victoria's transition to COO, preparing the house, and most importantly, building routines with Lily and Ethan. She enrolled Lily in the neighborhood elementary school, found specialized therapists for Ethan's developmental needs, and created a home environment that balanced structure with warmth. In late autumn, as the first snow dusted Chicago streets, Jennifer went into labor. The birth was long and difficult, but throughout the exhausting hours, she found strength in thoughts of Robert, of Lily and Ethan waiting at home with Victoria, of the family she was completing with this new life. Christopher Robert Harrington entered the world on a cold November morning, his newborn cries echoing in the delivery room like a declaration. When Jennifer held him for the first time, she saw Robert in his tiny features, in the determined set of his mouth, in the intelligent alertness of his gaze. "Hello, little one," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Your daddy would have loved you so much." 2 days later, Jennifer brought Christopher home. Victoria had decorated the front door with blue balloons and a welcome home banner clearly designed by Lily, complete with careful drawings of their entire family. Inside, Lily waited with barely contained excitement, her eyes wide as she beheld the tiny bundle in Jennifer's arms. "This is your brother, Christopher," Jennifer said softly, kneeling to Lily's height. "Would you like to hold him?" With infinite care, Lily accepted the baby, her expression transforming with wonder as Christopher grasped her finger with surprising strength. "Hello, Christopher," she whispered. "I'm your big sister, Lily, and that's your brother, Ethan. We've been waiting for you." Jennifer watched this first meeting through tears, her heart so full it seemed impossible to contain such emotion. The family Robert had begun to build was now complete, connected by love rather than blood, united by a legacy that would continue in ways he never could have imagined. 1 year after Robert's death, on a crisp winter morning with snow falling gently from a pearl gray sky, Jennifer bundled the children into the car. Ethan, now 2, babbled happily in his car seat. Lily, recently turned 5, helped secure Christopher in his infant carrier, proud of her role as big sister to both boys. "Where are we going, Mom?" Lily asked, the title still new and precious on her lips. "To visit Daddy Robert," Jennifer answered softly. "To tell him about our year." The cemetery was peaceful under its blanket of white. Jennifer carried Christopher against her chest while Lily held Ethan's hand, carefully guiding him through the snow. Together they approached Robert's grave, where Jennifer had arranged for a simple but elegant headstone. "Hi, honey," Jennifer said, her voice steady despite the tears gathering in her eyes. "We've brought the whole family today." Lily stepped forward, placing a bouquet of white lilies on the grave. "Hi, Daddy," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "We miss you." Ethan, not fully understanding but sensing the solemn mood, snuggled closer to Jennifer. "Dada?" he asked, pointing at the photo of Robert on the headstone. "Yes, sweetie," Jennifer replied, kissing the top of his head. "That's Daddy." For a few moments they remained silent, each absorbing the presence of the others in the absence of Robert. Then Jennifer began to speak, sharing the events of the past year with the man who had set them all on this path. "Oh, Robert," she said, tears streaming freely down her face. "So much has happened. The foundation is helping families across the country. Children who would have been separated are staying together because of your vision. Lily started kindergarten this fall, and she's already reading at a second grade level. Lily beamed with pride, then added her own update. Ethan can say 20 words now, and he only had to go to the hospital once this whole month. And Christopher looks just like you in the pictures. Jennifer continued, telling Robert about the company's growth under Victoria's operational leadership, about the new house and their life there, about the joy and challenges of parenting 3 children while guiding a corporate transformation. You changed our lives, Robert, Jennifer concluded, her voice trembling with emotion. You gave us a family, a purpose. Your legacy of love and compassion lives on through us every day. Lily, who had been listening closely, stepped forward and hugged Jennifer. Daddy would be proud of us, wouldn't he, Mom? Jennifer smiled through her tears, hugging Lily back. Yes, sweetheart, I'm sure he'd be very proud. Sensing the emotional moment, Ethan joined the hug, wrapping his small arms around Jennifer's leg. Christopher, as if feeling the significance, remained unusually quiet in his mother's arms. They stayed like that for a long moment, a family united by love and loss, gratitude and hope. Finally, Jennifer stood straighter, adjusting Christopher in her arms. It's time to go home, kids, she said softly. We have a lot to look forward to. As they walked away from the grave, Jennifer glanced back one last time. Thank you, Robert, she whispered, for everything. The winter sun cast a golden glow over the cemetery as the family made their way back to the car. Jennifer watched Lily help Ethan jump over puddles, listened to Christopher's gentle coos, and felt a surge of determination. The road ahead still held challenges. There was the foundation to run, children to raise, and a legacy to uphold. But Jennifer Harrington was ready. With Robert's love guiding her steps and her children's love strengthening her heart, she knew she could face anything. As she buckled the children into the car, Jennifer looked once more at the bright winter sky. We're doing it, Robert, she thought it together, even if you're not here. We're building the family and the world you dreamed of. And with that, Jennifer got into the car, ready to face the next chapter of her journey. A journey of love, family, and making a difference in the world. A journey Robert had begun, and that she now continued with all her heart and all her strength. The car pulled away from the cemetery, carrying the Harrington family, unconventional, unplanned, but perfectly united, back to the world they were helping make a little better every day. And somewhere, Jennifer was certain, Robert was smiling.